Since we don't have the money to spend, since we're running a deficit and we don't want to have inflation, why don't we just raise taxes? That brings in more money. Then we won't have a deficit. Then the poor people won't have inflation. But nobody wants their taxes raised. So what the government does is it tries to tell you ways that they're going to raise taxes that aren't going to affect you. That's the old, I won't tax you if you don't tax me. Let's tax that guy over there behind the tree. But there's no free lunch. That's why we always want to tax corporations. Why do you tax a corporation? Well, first off, they don't vote. Vote. Let's tax them. Let's tax them more. They're evil, greedy, rich corporations. Now, I'm not going to stand up for corporations, but I am going to tell you the truth about how this works. First off, what is a corporation? A corporation is a bunch of people that get together, pool their money, and start a business. It's good or bad or indifferent, it doesn't make any difference. These people become the shareholders, and these shares of stock are bought and sold because the corporation plans on living infinitely, and its only goal is to profit. It doesn't have a mind, it doesn't have a heart, it doesn't have a soul, it's not human. To think of it as bad is to think a rock is bad or a bowling ball is bad. It's an inanimate object. But in any event, it's owned by these shareholders. Now, most people in America are actually shareholders. If you have a pension, 401k, IRA, mutual fund, you probably own Exxon stock. You probably own General Electric stock. You probably own all sorts of kinds of stock, because that's the best investment for your 401k or your IRA. The shareholders get together and they hire the CEO, CFO, and the management team. And their purpose, their only purpose, is to make money. And the common, nicer way to say it is increase shareholder value. Now, if they don't increase shareholder value, the shareholders fire them. I mean, they get new people to do that. So it's not the mean CEOs that do this. It's the fact that that's how business works. So the CEO and the head accountant of this corporation, they're faced with deciding how to pay this corporate tax, this corporate income tax. Now, I guess what they could do is just cut the dividend to the shareholders. Yeah, right. The shareholders would fire them. They could pay it out of the treasury money that they have. That lowers shareholder value too. So what they try and do is figure out who to pass this tax on to. They may, if they can, raise their prices. And a lot of times they can and will. They raise their prices so that everybody else has to pay the tax. You know, you, the 49% that thinks you're getting away scot-free, that's sitting there saying, let's raise the corporate income tax. You're the one that pays it. And again, if it's food or gasoline or anything like that, you're actually paying a higher percentage of your profit than the 1% does. And when this tax is passed on to you, you don't even know it. You don't know. You think whoever proposed this brilliant scheme of taxing corporations was doing something to help you. They weren't. They were either stupid or they were conning you. Now, assume that a corporation can't raise prices. Well, then they cut labor costs. They either don't give raises, they pay less towards the 401ks, maybe they cut health care benefits, or maybe they move their plant to China, where it costs less to manufacture. But one way or another, they're going to try and cut costs and raise revenue before they ever touch shareholder value, because that gets them fired. Now, economists, and this isn't one of these things where people say, well, most economists say, no. This is all economists know this. There may be an argument as to whether or not the corporate tax is regressive, in other words, whether or not poor people pay a higher percentage than rich people, or proportionate, the same, or progressive, and there are studies that suggest this, and I can tell you the answer to this. A corporate tax on Tiffany's is progressive, a corporate tax on Exxon is regressive. But no one argues about the fact that the corporation doesn't pay taxes, they just collect it from other people. Why do we have a corporate tax at all? Why? Because people kind of like the sound of it. Except for one thing. It violates the principle, the grand unification theory of everything in economics. Lunch, it ain't free.